Hello, 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 people. Welcome back to an episode of the USL Show. It is great to be back. It's another wonderful Tuesday. And, here in the USL, we get to play players who aren't on the roster, and then we just have to forfeit matches because that's what we do here. Twice in one season, bizarrely enough. Ryan, how are you?
Yeah, doing well. I will say it's 3.5 more weeks until we can get the clocks to change for daylight savings time, and I'm very much looking forward to that. It's not fun walking to the train in the morning before the sunrise.
John?
I'm a creature of the dark, so I like a nighttime-esque morning. But yeah, I feel that. Frankly, I'm just happy that we are here with Kaylor back with us.
Hey, it's good to be back. Had a little bit of a week off, and we're back to it. At the very end of the show, I do have CBA thoughts, but I don't want to start off with that because, well, obviously. But I do want to start off with thanking our wonderful, amazing patrons, Don Garber, Luke Loudon, David Horn, Josh, Dylan Reed, William Lamb, Sandy Lester, Ryan Smelter, Matt Capiel, Andrew Towsley, Alpha Hedgehog, Kunal Patel, MOS, NF Fresh 30, Tim Knox, Rion Lacara, Jeremy Churchman, Alberto Aguilar, Noah Telford, Michael Fuchs, Joshua Duder, John Fuller, Christopher Cohn, Frank Anthony, and John Hunt. I'm a little out of practice, people. I'm a little out of practice.
To the guy who signed up as non-Garber, that gets me every time. And we should encourage other people to make us read dumb things. So sign up for what we're doing with the support and put a dumb name.
I have to read it and just know that. I have to look at the name, convince myself to say it, and read it. So, why not?
Someone sign up as Kaylor Hodges, please.
Not me. Make me sign up. Anyway, hey, congratulations, Hartford Athletic, our second ever Jägermeister Cup winners. Let's hope that your fate is better than the first ever Jägermeister Cup winners. But hey, seriously though, congratulations on the first ever trophy. On what was a pretty intense matchup, very testy, just very much this is a finals match and we more or less don't want to lose it. We obviously want to win it, but we really just don't want to lose it. But it ends up being a 1-0 victory for the traveling Hartford fans to see their first ever trophy being lifted.
No, I mean, a tremendous moment in the history of this club, which outside of a decent season, maybe when they were getting off the ground, has really been in the pits. And the support has stayed there in Hartford. That stadium there is always packed out, what used to be Dillon Stadium. The supporters are vocal. You saw some of them in the stands there in Sacramento. And the trust in Brendan Burke to get the job done, I think, is really admirable. After what we saw in 2024, it would have been easy for the front office there that really does have high aspirations to say, okay, this guy isn't it. When you got to May of this season and Hartford was near last place, same thing. Lots of clubs in the East were changing coaches. Burke felt like he was on the hot seat. They trusted the vision. They trusted the fact that this could be the roster to get them over the top, and credit to everybody involved. And you think specifically about what Hartford did in this match. They keep Haji Berry on the bench. Jack Panayiotou isn't starting in this game. So many of the calls that Burke made were pretty bold. Like Joey Farrell, probably the most tenured player on this squad. He's on the bench as well. But in every sense, Burke got the game plan right. He deepened out the midfield a little bit. He used the wingbacks in a little bit more of a conservative position. When the moment struck, Hartford was there. They made changes at a halftime. It really makes the case that I think Burke has done an excellent job, should be in the Coach of the Year conversation. Just unbelievable from top to bottom. What an achievement for them.
Yeah, if you look through just Hartford's own history, even on their own Wikipedia page, it opens up their history section of early struggles, which lasts from 2019 to 2023, and then it immediately jumps into the Brendan Burke era, which is basically a testament to how much that he's really changed this club. That I had said it in my preview article for this match that winning a trophy for Hartford not just represents the journey the team has been on this season, but just the journey that this club has been on since they've joined in with USL, and it's just that kind of special special moment that you'll see will always kind of stick within this club's just history, the at least careers of these players. And to have this match and basically go into Sacramento, which is already a very difficult place to play across the country, and to get a clean sheet result here is a truly phenomenal accomplishment for Athletic.
We get on to Oakland, which, funny enough, had to Hartford plays tonight about changing coaches every single year, right? Hartford did the same thing, including their interim. They've had 7 coaches in their existence. They kind of went through I'm going to show my SEC kind of football brain here. They went through the Auburn Tiger thing of we would rather just pay out a coach and just like fire them and just get it over with, where it was just constantly revolving doors of who's going to be the coach this year. And you mentioned it with Brendan Burke, and it's not just Brendan Burke was on the hot seat. Hartford has shown that they fire coaches. They're not afraid to do so. And the fact they stuck with Burke, I think it shows that they knew that they had something working. Something was telling them that this was working, that something underlying was going well, right? I mean, I kind of think back to when we talked to Ollie earlier this year about the underlying data that he sees running a football club. There might have been something under the hood that Burke could have pointed to with the club and was like, no, this is going to turn around. You just have to trust it. Look at this. And it did. And it's been really fun to watch. We all just assumed that after they went on their hot run and then they lose Yang to Minnesota United, that it was over, that it was a fun story and it was all going to fall apart. It hasn't. And are they scoring as much as they were? No. But you mentioned it, John. They got Achi Berry on the bench and they didn't even have to use them. I mean, sure, if you look at the stats, you say, well, Sacramento owned possession and they were putting on pressure, but that's not really how that match was going. It wasn't like Sacramento was dominating Hartford and Hartford was just withstanding. Hartford was more or less on the front foot in that match, in my opinion.
Yeah, and you think about how Burke set that team up early. It's Obalola at the striker spot, who, from my money, is probably the 3rd most talented forward on that team. Burke would probably agree with that statement. But in the matchup, he is the quickest player. He's got that verticality. He forces Sacramento to respect their threat over the top and forces Sacramento to sit back. Then when you've trained that response, you've tired the legs of the Republic. It's Kyle Edwards coming on at halftime. Edwards is somebody with 7 goals off the bench so far in regular season play. He's made for that moment. Hartford gets you where they want you, and then Edwards comes in and scores the goal. This time he's not really doing the scoring, but it's the run he makes that blocks Jared Mazzola's eye line that lets that long-range shot from Carriaga go in. But it's paying off what Burke is doing tactically and strategically in such a wonderful way that you don't even need Barry. Then it's the defense. I think it's the thing that Burke has taken the longest to get going, but it's really the cornerstone of what they've done throughout the season. You're right to mention, Kaylor, with Dieng gone, they've scored a little bit less. The XG is down. They can rely on that low block to such a degree that it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I mean, this was a Hartford team who outshot Sacramento in this match and had more shots on target in this one. And if we're looking ahead to the playoff picture, as William Lamb had said in our chat here, Hartford's going to be a really scary team for a lot of Eastern Conference sides to face. As it stands, they're currently in that kind of 4v5 type of matchup right now. They could very well climb as high up as the 3rd seed. But if I'm Louisville or Charleston, and you are most likely going to see both of those teams win their first round game, I don't want to be playing Hartford in the conference semifinals.
Absolutely not. And, we've kind of mentioned it several times. Siaha, I mean, we talked about how this team's swagger changed when Siaha just basically decided to give it to Rhode Island fans. Doesn't that really feel like the turning point of this season? Of Siaha just basically like, I'm that guy, we're that team, like we're just going to show up and kick your tail and leave. That really feels like where we noticed the turnaround. And I'm not going to say Siaha is just like the hidden vet on the team or like should be the captain. I don't even think he is the captain of the squad. But I'm not saying that that's necessarily what caused it. But we've noticed a sizable change of Hartford coming onto the field, and they have that swagger about them ever since that moment. When's the last time before this year you noticed a truly confident Hartford team?
Never.
Yeah.
In the 15 games that they played since that moment, they only lost 2 of them, and that was Pittsburgh and Indy 11 in the league.
So I don't know. For me, that's a pretty clear turning point for the season. And Siaha is just a guy that shows that side of him. And I think that he's just going to be the more visible person that kind of has that. Jordan Scarlett also has some Jordan Scarlett's captain because he has some pretty sick quotes after the match. Basically Hartford's admin were all over it, so check that out on socials. But like, he has some pretty fun quotes after there, just walking billboard for quotes, pretty sick stuff. So anything else on this, guys?
Do you want to throw a word Sacramento's way? They can hold their heads high after this performance. I wrote about some quibbles, frankly, with the lineup and some of the in-game choices from Neil Collins, but they managed it about as well as you can against this Hartford team. It feels like they are going to get a trophy at some point. Maybe it's in the playoffs this year. But yeah, it stings no matter what, but it was a strong performance from the Republic nonetheless.
Absolutely. Well, let's stay out in Cali because Santa Barbara Sky have delayed for yet another year. And I'm going to go ahead and just kind of say they posted their announcement, as Ryan noted in our private chat, at 4 a.m. local time, which is a decision. It is certainly one of the decisions of all time. But they said that after a careful evaluation, they decided Santa Barbara Sky will not be kicking off next season as planned. Doesn't mean that they're slowing down. They're finalizing the ownership group and preparing sanctioning with a plan to take the field in March of 2027. The additional time allows us to do this the right way and build a club ready to thrive. Where I'm just going to give it my opinion that I always give the opinion of. If you listen to the show multiple times when we talk about expansion stuff, you've heard me say it. Don't believe a club exists until they kick a ball. Just don't. We've had people from Santa Barbara come on, and there is work going on in the background. We know that. Like, there's a lot of stuff moving in the right direction for Santa Barbara. I'm not saying that it will never happen. But in this world of USL soccer, and we're announcing that we're awarding this city a club, like, yeah, man, we've heard it so many times. Don't believe it until they kick a ball. I used to say don't believe it until they sign a player, but Texoma really pushed me on that this year. So I'm just now delaying until kick a ball.
Yeah, on one hand, I think it is always good if a group pushes back because they genuinely have things that they need to work on. If Santa Barbara felt like we want to come out and put our best foot forward and be able to make that impression from day one, and we can't do that in 2026, that makes a lot of sense. And hopefully that's the case. There are other clubs that have been in the works that continue to delay what they're trying to do, that it doesn't feel like there is that intention. It's a lot of smoke and mirrors and there's no meat on the bone. And as we're seeing in the chat, and as the point I was just going to make, the USL has announcement-itis, where they just like to get their news out there in the world, drum up that positive PR. Something like Santa Barbara obviously is very concrete compared to some of the other efforts we've seen, where you're just loosely coming to an agreement with a city maybe, and there's no ownership and no real stadium. Like, that's just a news cycle gaming. With Santa Barbara specifically, like, they sent somebody on our show because they wanted to say, hey, we're real. That maybe I'm just getting taken for a dork, but I don't know, that means something to me. So hopefully they can circle the wagons in 2027, take those Memphis 901 franchise rights and do something good with them.
Yeah, USL has always been, I guess, like you've mentioned, John, like over eager to announce stuff. I mean, they announced a return for my Wilmington Hammerheads back in 2020, and it's still 2025, and as soon as probably not till 2028 that anything will happen. We see a really great article from Alex on almost like a monthly basis on just an update for all of the new impending expansion teams and just like their progress as well. And we've seen teams enter the league previously doing it rather rushed, and it comes off as just being not the best approach. So it's at least all more to the credit of the team to recognize if something isn't ready, to certainly push back on it so that when you do make that arrival into the league, it is with the best intentions and it's with the best foot forward, because there's only like so many chances you have to make a first impression within this league. And that's crucially important. And honestly, it could very well be a blessing in disguise, as you have, I know the World Cup this upcoming year is going to be something that people are going to get really excited for. If you can like build off that momentum and say, hey, next year we're going to have another team here, that's at least maybe a silver lining if we're trying to find one.
Yeah, we're also seeing just stuff with clubs announcing that they're going to be pro. I've never pronounced the name right. Temecula, is that how you pronounce the valley? Because it's a valley in Cali, right? Anyway,
that's as close as I'm going to get to it. Yeah.
Cool. And then Louisiana Crew have also said, we're going pro. And it's like, okay, congrats. And like, it's like, we're going to League One, but the leagues have not said anything. But, you know, this happens a lot. And you just, Temecula, thank you. I'm assuming that's producer Andy in chat. But yeah, that's just, it's stuff like that where the league likes to announce things, and then clubs just like to announce that they're joining or going pro with the loose veil of it'll definitely be under the USL, where we just get really just fatigued from clubs announcing stuff. So that this just feels like another case of getting burned, I guess, by word. It's definitely happening this year. Wink, wink.
I do think on Santa Barbara specifically, if you look, they posted a link to an update on their actual site where they're talking about what this means for sponsors. They're talking about the stadium construction. Like, there are actual things happening. They're very active about hosting community events to watch other soccer. This is, of all the delays, the best case scenario, frankly.
Well, another club that we've seen be really active and have other hosting things and stuff that they do has been Sporting Jacks leading up to their release, right? Leading up to the Super League and now the championship coming up in a year or two, where we've seen them host events, and they even had a podcast going at one point. Now Ozark is also doing it, I believe. And they are quickly becoming I'm dropping everything to watch them club in the Super League. They put on a thrilling 3-3 draw versus Brooklyn, where they were up 1-0, and then it gets tied, and then they go up 2-0, or Brooklyn goes up, Brooklyn goes up 2-1, and then 3-2, and then 3-3 at the very end. They had an Olympico. This one had so much happen in this match, and Sporting Jacks is just fun, and I feel like we saw the best version of Brooklyn I have seen since last December.
First half Brooklyn was kind of the bad Brooklyn that we've seen throughout 2025, and I thought Tomas Tangarina probably overthought his lineup. Switching formations, getting Barbieri into the midfield. There were a lot of tweaks that on paper made sense. Like, you were trying to outnumber the pivot. You wanted 3 forwards to press against that Jacksonville back 3, and it didn't really work. And that is a credit also to Jacksonville, who from day one has been incredibly slick with the ball and is the best pressing team in the USL Super League by a mile. They come with an intensity and an organization that is so hard to counteract. You think to the second half for Brooklyn, Barbieri goes back into the back line. You're using actual midfielders in the midfield. Suddenly things start to click. You've got the sense of momentum. I thought Pringle coming off the bench was unreal on the left wing. Total momentum changer for them. The ending is havoc, But for me, the big takeaway is I think Brooklyn may have found something legitimate in those final 45 minutes.
And looking at it from the Sporting Jacks side, they have scored the first goal in 5 of their 6 games and have already combined for 27 goals in their first 6 games played, 4.5 goals average per game. Like, this is, as Kaylor put it, like a must-watch team, especially if you're just a neutral for just seeing an entertaining match.
John, we saw it you mentioned it in the first game of the season when we were looking at Sporting Jacks, but they were dominating touches in the final third. They still do it, and it's not just pointless possession in the corner. Like, they are driving into the final third and making magic happen constantly. They are just a fun team to watch. It was mentioned by Jonathan Starling. Doesn't hurt. Sporting Jacks had no defending whatsoever in the second half. Yes, there has been defending woes, and we've seen that with Sporting Jacks this year. They lost last week. Was it 3-4 2 weeks ago? I mean, like, they are just in constant, we are going to get in shootouts, but they have the attack to do it. We have really yet to see their attack go fully cold. And at some point, the defense is going to figure itself out. Usually it's the finishing that takes time to sort out. If you're a new club and you're a new team working together, the finishing's already there. The defense is going to shore up at some point. That if I'm a Sporting Jacks fan, if I'm a player, if I'm the coaching staff, I am incredibly pleased as a new expansion side going toe-to-toe with these other teams.
And I do think the worry defensively is, like, you watch the strategy from Stacey Balaam, and there is an imbalance. Like, this is an offense-first team for sure, specifically with the wingback spots. Like, the way that Meg Hughes on the left is pushing forward is kind of wild to see and kind of rare within the USL. I love it. It's box office. I wonder, do you add another midfielder to really try to be defensive cover? Do you have to pin the wingbacks at some point? Or is it just going to be shootouts all year long? And I hope that's the case, but I do wonder when moderation comes into play.
If I would guess, I'm looking at someone like a Sophie Jones or a Sophia Bowman to maybe just sit in a little bit deeper. Almost kind of like the conversation we had with Greenville earlier this year, where they were just kind of getting beaten transition because they were just constantly being outnumbered. And what fixed Greenville? Having someone sit as a proper number 6 and just be someone to slow up play a little bit. You could realistically see someone like a Sophie Jones or a Sophia Bowman, although she also got onto the scoring, so maybe you don't want to take her out of it. But still, someone like that to sit just a little bit deeper, just to be a buffer. Because you mentioned Meg Hughes. Part of the reason why Meg Hughes was able to do what she was doing is because Grace Philpotts also gets very north very fast.
Well, right. It's like the underlapping center back thing that you don't see in the USL unless it's Louisville City. Like, it's very bold for Jacksonville to have come out this aggressive. And again, I love it, and they're executing well. At some point, I hope it comes together and they become the full product, because there's real potential for this team to compete.
So, any other thoughts on this match? All right, well, let's hop over to Carolina, where we get a 3-2 win for Carolina. One of the goals for DC is an own goal, but Carolina kind of finally looks like Carolina again, which is great. It's exciting. And this is despite what we saw last year, and the results haven't fully gone DC's way. This is a vastly improved DC powered team that for them to get, I'm going to call a 3-1 win because one of the goals was an own goal. It's great to see if you're the Ascent.
I thought this game, they really achieved a balance that they didn't have in the past couple weeks. Now, broadly, and if you look at this across the arc of the season, they gave up 11 goals in the entirety of fall 2024. They've already given up 13 to date in the league. That's probably not good. That said, they're making some of the changes you want to see to solve that problem. In this game, Mia Corbin plays as a kind of a number 8 box-to-box midfielder. and they are holding the line so much higher at the back. That accomplishes a couple things. One, the issue has come in low block. So by having the high line and pressing really high and having Corbin as this kind of sort of defensive mid, sort of forward, you're just keeping the ball in the attacking zone as much as possible. The best way to not defend is to attack, and that's what Carolina was trying to do. You combine that with forcing turnovers in the press, getting Mercado going, getting Mackenzie George the ball in dangerous spaces. That's how you rush out to the 2-0 lead and really set the table for the rest of the match. It's kind of Jacksonville-y, frankly. Risk-taking, pressure, getting the forwards as high as possible. But you love to see it. It's fun soccer, and it gets them the win.
Yeah, I mean, when Carolina played Jacksonville, they combined for 7 goals scored in that one game. And like looking at it from DC Power's side, they've already scored 9 goals on the year. In the fall season from last year, they scored 7 in its entirety. Like, this is a vastly improved DC Power team that had at least a decent enough start to the year to go unbeaten in their first 4 games, albeit 3 of those being draws. But for the reigning regular season champions, it's very good for Carolina to get this result, to hopefully start moving up the table if you're them. And in terms of a wider league focus, who would have thought that the reigning playoff champions, Tampa Bay Sun, would be the last team without a victory on the year?
True. One thing that was catching my eye, you mentioned Mackenzie George. She's a winger by trade, and they've put her centrally. That said, she's not sticking there. She's definitely going out wide to collect ball, get into space. But they've put her up top and said, the entire pitch is yours to roam. Just go find spaces, find pockets. Mercado will find you. You're going to have Mia Corbin who can get you the ball. Go do what you do, and the whole field is yours, basically. And it was really cool to see, where it felt like the whole weeks coming up to this, they were like, Mackenzie George, go play the right. Now go to the left. Now go to the right. Now go to the left. And at some point, I guess they decided, why not just go up top and find whatever space fits your need? And it worked really well.
And you think about when Mackenzie George was in her best form, it was that stretch when Brooklyn looked like the best team in the history of soccer. And she was playing as a winger on paper, but when Brooklyn possessed, constantly cutting inside, roaming the edge of the box, finding her ability to shoot. It's a similar deployment to what Carolina is doing now, and it's the best way to maximize her.
I'm also looking at this DC Power side, and you're looking at Morgan Aquino, who last year was one of the better goalkeepers, despite maybe what the goal differential would say. You have a Sydney Cummings who came over and has looked solid, but maybe not up to her own standard. You also have Lisa Gilbert, just other, I always mess up her name, Katrina Gio.
Close enough. Yep.
Sure. Just really that spine. I'm just a bit confused on why it's not fully working. Because when DC Power was working well last year, they were defensively solid. I understand new coaches, all that stuff. But I just don't understand why it's not working, because I like each of the pieces in that spine individually.
I agree with you that I like the pieces. I don't know if there's a player that I look at and I'm like, they can be the best piece on a playoff team.
Yeah.
And you look at Carolina from front to back, there's probably a player in every one of their lines where you could make that claim. I think Gianna Gorley is getting there for DC, frankly. The way that she can facilitate as a number 9, but also provide the scoring threat, that's meaningful. And somebody's going to arise. Like, you named a lot of people who really have the ability to get there, but DC still feels like they're in figuring it out mode under Omid Namazi.
Last thought, people who've been listening for a while know I'm a bit of a number snob, and I hate the Carolina Ascent. I absolutely hate them. They have a number 7 playing at the 5. They have a number 8 playing at the 2. They have a number 9 playing at the 8. They have a number 10 playing at the 7. They have an 18 playing at the 11. Their number 4 is playing the 9. I hate them. Just give them the right numbers. I hate them. Why do you do this? Why are you the way that you are?
I was on a call with a coach last week who was like referring to positions by the number and like explicitly the 11, and it made my heart happy.
I'm really just getting really caught up in Madison Mercado being the 4, playing the 9.
That's really tough. Like she's their strikeriest striker.
I can't stand it. But any final thoughts on these? All right, let's go out to League One, where there's a new team on top, but they are still in East Tennessee, where we have One Knox has taken over at the top of League One. And a lot of it comes down to a nice little head-to-head victory, a 2-0 win. Mark Doyle gets this goal started in 2 minutes in, and before the first half ends, it is 2-2. And Chattanooga hasn't really had an answer, and they didn't have an answer. We're starting to maybe see slight cracks where if you're able to score early on this Chattanooga team, or do they have enough to get back into the match? Well, luckily for One Knox, they are about as solid defensively as they come when they choose to be. And it's a 2-0 victory to see them go top.
Well, I do want to say Chattanooga then drew at the weekend and got back on top. So beggars can't be choosers.
0-0 draw because they can't score right now.
But you stole my talking point. Like the secret to beating Chattanooga is score early. If you are the team that scores first against the Red Wolves, you are probably in line for a decent result because it doesn't let them get into the low block and dictate the game. And I thought what One Knox did well in this match and has done for about a week and a half, 2 weeks at this point, is rely on this very physical midfield with Angelo Kelly and Emil Caputo, and kind of Kempis Tequila playing as this 8-10 hybrid player. And we think of him as a scorer, but he's got the frame, he's got the work rate to really do a job in that position. Rarely do you see a team just go toe-to-toe with the Red Wolves, and they did just that. The other thing that I've really liked from One Knox recently, they're kind of bending into a back 3 offensively. Jaheim Brown is going to be basically an extra center back, and that lets Stuart Ritchie just go wild up the left. He is the one who gets that assist on the first goal in this game. The second goal comes off of his carriage and then his counter pressure afterwards. The more you let Stuart Ritchie just kind of do things, the better off you're going to be. And One Knox is using that to their advantage.
Yeah, to build upon Chattanooga, it's been 5 times this year that Chattanooga failed to get the opening goal and then still ended up getting a result from the game. It was Spokane. Their win over the Velocity a few weeks ago was the last time that they had a victory in that one. But yeah, when you have One Knoxville playing at home as the one team left in USL 1 play right now who has yet to lose at home, they're just going into a really difficult environment. And this is why I think it's so crucially important that Knoxville gets the number 1 seed in the playoffs. Just like having that home field advantage would immediately, for me, put them as the favorite to win if they're number 1.
Yeah, and we're going to get into a lot of standings talks very soon because we had another team join the land of the clinched, and we'll get to that in just a bit. But if I'm One Knox, I'm feeling super confident in where I am. They were one of our top 4 teams. Yes, they can definitely win a championship this year. You know, we were talking about One Knox and not too far behind where a Spokane Velocity were. Obviously, we felt really good about Spokane, the additions that they made, but they were up there in that same kind of breath. There were other teams that we mentioned, like Westchester, that we thought were up there, but they weren't quite. But teams like Spokane, teams like One Knox are proving why we are so high on them. They're going to be defensively solid. They have one of the best spines that you're going to find in the USL right now. Attacking wise, they can go toe to toe. I'm not saying they're going to get into 5-goal shootouts. Leave that for the Tormentas of the world, I guess. But they're still going to be able to give you 1-2 goals. And when you're looking at playoff time, I don't know if there's another team that I would fear more than One Knox. Because, John, we talked about it. If you score first, good luck coming back against Chattanooga. Or like if Chattanooga scores first, good luck because you're not going to break them down. One Knox can. Ryan, you mentioned the amount of times that they've been able to come back from losing positions and get a result. If I am Chattanooga, One Knox is my nemesis. They are the one team that can absolutely beat me because they can beat you just enough and be just as defensively solid.
And Knoxville's
Yeah.
last 7 home games have all been under 2.5 total goals as well, which just makes it such a difficult place to go into and get a result if you're a road team.
Yeah, and at this time of year, as you head into the playoffs, that's such an important skill, being able to score early and lock it down. The League One table is so weird at the moment because I think if you power ranked the teams that you think could win a title, you would be picking a lot that are outside of the top 4 right now. Like on form alone, Omaha, Tormenta, One Knox is up in the mix, obviously, but it's a lot of clubs who maybe took some time to find their footing, but are coming on strong.
Well, let's talk about this a little bit because when we were doing our pre-show prep, we were kind of talking about, do we want to talk about Union Omaha versus Naples? Do we want to talk about Portland Hearts of Pine versus Madison? And then Omaha versus Portland Hearts of Pine kind of got brought up. And would you believe after Union Omaha being dead for like half of the season that they have clinched before Portland Hearts of Pine? I was just beating the bell, like ringing the bell of like, hey, Portland could be getting a home playoff game. So could Union Omaha, right? At the way things are going. Portland Hearts of Pine have fallen off just a little bit. They decided to rotate just a little bit versus Ford Madison. It doesn't work out. They lose 1-0 to Union Omaha in a must-win match if they wanted to kind of keep the advantage. It doesn't happen. Meanwhile, Union Omaha cannot stop winning. Same thing with Tormenta. But Union Omaha legit cannot stop winning at this point. Almost, maybe not to the same extreme, but shades of, what year was that? 2023, where they were awful in their first 14 and then just never lost again. We're starting to see the same kind of transformation happen again in Omaha.
Whenever the newsletter comes out this week, I'm writing a lot about them. But I think the thing that stands out tape-wise is freedom within the structure that Vincenzo Candela has set up. This team basically uses 6 attackers at any given time. It tends to be 4 guys kind of bunched up tight and 2 players on the overlap who are really providing the crossing threat. What makes Omaha interesting is any 6 players could be in any of those positions at any given time. Sometimes Ryan Betcher is making a run out of the midfield and doing it. We've seen Prosper Kasim kind of drop in like a central midfielder at times, and he's been wonderful in that role. Dion Akoff on the overlap, ridiculous. And Omaha doesn't use a consistent lineup. They are tailoring the team to the given matchup. You saw them use a little bit more physicality against Portland. They wanted to emphasize the transition game against Naples. Every string that Vincenzo Candela is pulling, it's working for them. Kind of Hartford-esque in that sense. But yeah, I don't know if there's a team that I watch week to week in League One these days and am more impressed with what they're doing and doing against good competition in the process.
Yeah, I mean, on August 9th, Union Omaha had 18 points on the board right now. And here we are in the start of October. They're on 41 points, having clinched a playoff spot. And even per my ELO ratings, they're the 3rd best team in the league at the moment. It's been a dramatic rise up the table, and they still are in the hunt to get a home playoff game at the expense of Naples as well. And I wouldn't want to. This will be another team that you don't want to play this team in the first round, much less play them on the road in the first round too.
Sidebar before I get into other stuff, seeing Pino and Prosper score in one match kind of made me want to throw up just a little bit of just what could have been. Same thing with Portland. Luca Dorado scores a big week to be a Legion reject, I guess. I don't know what's going on. Come back, please. I miss you. I'm a little bit concerned about Portland Hearts of Pine. Just a little bit. I'm not like I think they're going to fall out of the playoffs concerned. I think at this point you're seeing teams fight for that final playoff spot, and 7 and up are pretty set. But I'm still concerned because there was that conversation of they may never lose again. Like we were kind of talking like that, especially if they were going to be at home. They were going to play every game at home towards the end. How could you possibly lose in that place? And they're starting to lose in that place. And maybe this could just be fixture congestion kind of piling up on them after not having a lot of matches at the beginning of the season and they're getting tired legs. Maybe. But they're not as lively. The counterattack is not as quick as it was. It doesn't look as fluid as it once did. Maybe it is just tired legs, but I just have concerns.
I think teams have kind of caught on to the Portland formula in a way. If you don't let Ollie Wright and Masashi Wada kind of get those passes in the final third and wreak havoc, you're going to have a better time. And so the gambit that at least that Madison and Omaha both used was put a ton of pressure on the central midfielders, force Portland to play long from the back, and then it just becomes a duel. It's not those guys receiving at their feet. There is less of a tempo, like you're saying. They can't transition as effectively. There are going to be matchups where that doesn't work, and Portland, just on the force of the talent that they have, is going to break you down and get a good result. But I think for me, that's what stood out was Portland maybe needs to figure out what is the plan B attacking wise if teams are going to defend us as they are.
Yeah, I mean, the last 4 Portland games, they haven't scored multiple goals in any of those games. In fact, all 4 of those games have been under 2.5 total goals for the match. Like, they'll have a trip to Knoxville this weekend and then 2 home games against an already on the beach Westchester and a likely already eliminated AV Alta team by the time they get there. Like, I think Portland will be a playoff team just because, like, teams 8 through 11 who are still somewhat competitive for that playoff spot, I just don't think are going to catch them.
So we are just getting into that time of year where we're just going to be updating you on standings. Look, 1 through 7 in League One is done, in my opinion. Maybe not in that exact order, but that close to it. Don't look now, but Ford Madison is right there, just kind of sneaky out of nowhere, all fighting for that final playoff spot where realistically you're looking at Charlotte Independence, Ford Madison, AV Alta, Greenville Triumph, all fighting for that final playoff spot. Kind of around the horn, guys. Who are you taking for that 8th and final spot, John?
I mean, heart versus head. I want to see Greenville get into the playoffs because I think they are very fun to watch. I think Charlotte is just going to hold on and it's going to be boring.
Ryan?
I will say this Friday we will get a very good separation because we'll have Charlotte and AV Alta playing each other, which will kind of help clarify a lot of things. And if Charlotte wins, that will mean if Charlotte wins on Friday, that will mean the Texhoma Richmond game on Saturday will have 2 eliminated teams, which will just be kind of interesting dynamics to go about it. But yeah, I think it's going to come down to probably Charlotte or Madison, and I just kind of lean more Charlotte at the moment.
I just don't believe in Charlotte. I just really don't. And I don't want to get tricked by form, but I feel like Ford Madison's getting hot at just the right time. I feel like Madison may find themselves sneaking in on the final day.
And Madison's match on the final day is at Richmond.
But so Richmond, in theory, does not care, but it is the Henny Derby.
Yeah.
You figure they're going to be bringing the effort. That's in Richmond, you said?
Yes.
In front of that home crowd on the final day. That's a toughie.
And to clarify, the 2 games that they have left to play before that one is hosting Chattanooga and at Omaha, which is not an easy slate with Omaha likely still trying to chase down a home playoff game by that time that game rolls around. If you're looking at it from Charlotte's perspective, you have Avialta, Chattanooga, both at home, and then at Naples on the final day. And then Avialta is at Charlotte, hosts Richmond, at Portland on the final day. And then just for completionist's sake, Greenville has Omaha and Tormenta back-to-back at home, and then at Knoxville on the final day.
I was just going to point out that Greenville schedule. Omaha, Tormenta, Knoxville, the teams we just were like, oh, those are the 3 hottest teams in the entire league. That's tough.
Other than Charlotte playing Avialta, I don't think those 3 teams could be playing any worse of teams right now if they want to win.
I mean, that's the thing with League One, though, right? Like, the parity from, I don't know, 5 through 11 is so narrow. Like, you can't get an easy matchup.
Cut the playoffs up just these 7 teams and call it a day.
Guys, we are retroactively taking away the 8th spot. We ready to go into the championship? I got to be honest with you, just completely honest. Championship kind of boring this week in terms of like, not like actual matches, but just results that mean things.
A lot of draws, nothing going in the West. It feels like everybody in the West is just losing their way out of the playoffs. Yeah.
But let's start off with Detroit City, where they win 2-0 over North Carolina, and North Carolina find themselves just falling out of home playoffs. But Pittsburgh could not capitalize. We'll talk about that in a minute. But Detroit City have been in this weird spot of, are we spiraling? Are we alive? Are we alive? Are we dead? Like, where are we? And this feels like it was the final, we're fine, we'll be okay, we're in the playoffs win for me. Meanwhile, North Carolina, being silently one of the top 4 teams all year long, is crumbling along with everybody else fighting for that 4th spot. And it's the 4th spot is turning into the 8th spot from League One, if that makes sense.
I think I've done this before, but I just want to reiterate, I'm so out on North Carolina, it's kind of crazy. Some of that is being overexposed. They play so many Friday games that I feel duty-bound to consume in full, and I'm maybe just a little bit tired of them. But it feels like the way that John Bradford sets this team up is just overly negative most of the time. Now, that did change in Detroit. They were coming out with a very clever iteration on the press, really trying to flex up their right side by getting Dolabella and Ahmad Alcock somewhat higher upfield to target Devin Amumensa. The thing about targeting Devin Amumensa is that he's just going to pass through you, and he tended to connect with Kobe Hernandez-Foster really, really well to break lines, get upfield, and cause trouble. You think about the penalty sequence, it comes up the left. You think about what Ates Diouf was doing in that flank throughout the match. That felt like a powerhouse, and it felt like North Carolina, once their plan A didn't work, didn't really have a recourse. Some of that owes to the fact that Olex Anderson has just been out for a while at this point. But yeah, I don't know. It feels like they've really lost the momentum that got them into the top 4 in the first place.
And they did at least clinch a playoff spot in kind of the most North Carolina fashion of doing it off the back of a defeat just from other results elsewhere. But yeah, like of all the teams in the Eastern Conference this year, it has felt like North Carolina's been the one team that we don't really tend to mention. And yet they've still also like claimed the kind of best of the rest moniker within the Eastern Conference right now. But if you're separating basically 3rd through 8th right now is separated by 8 points, like this field could be completely changed by the time we get to through these final 3 weeks.
And Kaylor, on mute.
One thing that was brought up in chat was they just haven't been the same since Rafa Binskin went down, which fair, that's like an all-league type player. Most teams are just not okay if Rafa goes down. But it just feels incredibly uninspired. And we kind of talk about how they're trying to overcome it. Like they get a really creative player in a Jaden Cervania playing left wing back.
Mhm.
And it felt like they were just trying to put creativity on the pitch, and it's just not working. And maybe again, it is just Detroit has good players in the back line, and it's hard to set things up to try to really go at them sometimes. But this is also not the same Detroit from 2 years ago where you just were never going to score on them. They're incredibly beatable. And it felt like they just did not have any answers going forward. I just like we've talked about a few times with this North Carolina team. I just don't feel inspired by the game that they play. Right? Maybe it's just not sexy enough, but it gets points. But I just don't feel like this is a team that's truly competitive despite winning a good bit.
When that team was going and getting results last season, it was all about the counter. That's why they almost beat Louisville in the first round of the playoffs. Early this season, they retained some of that energy. But we saw the evolution, right? It was Mikey Maldonado doing his thing through the central midfield and being a master of set pieces. And since that point, Maldonado has essentially been benched. They become a lot more negative. Evan Conway has done a very admirable job up top, like really putting the team on his back at times, and he deserves a lot of credit for that. I don't think there's enough support for him in the setup. I think Jacksonville is kind of a useful comparison, right? I talked a lot about the wingbacks flying upfield. You get the underlapping runs from defense. North Carolina never gets that movement, and that's a choice. They are prioritizing defense over everything else. It clearly has worked for them to a certain extent, but you get into games against good teams like Detroit, you see whoever they're going to be facing in the first round of the postseason. I have my worries that I think the formula is just stale.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me if North Carolina gets bounced from the first round of the playoffs. I mean, they're currently, as it stands, in third place, being paired up against Pittsburgh at home. But like Hartford is just 3 points back of North Carolina in the table, and it wouldn't shock me to see Hartford finish above North Carolina.
Any final thoughts on this one? Well, speaking of the aforementioned Pittsburgh Riverhounds, they could have taken advantage of the fact that North Carolina lost and they could have gotten a few of those points back. But there was a murder down on South Dade Kia Field at Pitbull Stadium, Dale. And they go up 1-0. Charles All keeps doing the dang thing because he's really good. And then Miami just put 3 on their head. And then they get eliminated from the playoffs a few minutes later. Like, the most Miami swan song ever. They finally show some life and then they're forced to die. I don't know. Thanks, Miami. But the story here is more or less Pittsburgh not taking advantage of the situation that was given to them. And it could have actual lasting implications on this season in terms of can they get a playoff game into Highmark Stadium? It looks like increasingly no.
I do want to start by giving flowers to Gaston Madoni because this was weirdly an exquisitely managed match from him. Miami got the shape wrong coming out of the gates. They just tried to run the Pittsburgh system, but without any of the structure. And Pittsburgh should have capitalized. And then coming out of halftime, Miami decides, okay, they play with 3 center backs. Why don't we just use 4 forwards and see what gives? And Tobias Zarate goes off. Credit to Miami. I wish they had that much spunk for the rest of the season. Alas, they didn't, and they're going to be dead last. Pittsburgh side of things. It's that lack of killer instinct. So often when they take a lead in a match, it just becomes all defense. They really abandon the idea of moving forward as a unit and scoring the extra goal to put the game on ice. That is a feature of the Bob Lilly system rather than a bug. It can hurt in certain moments, and we saw it hurt over the weekend. Now, I think that they really can go on the road and make noise in the playoffs. I think the system is good for that specific context. But man, doing it at Highmark feels like it really would have been nice for them. You worry that going away after the gauntlet of the whole season is going to be a tough hill to climb.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first time since March 2024 that a Bob Lilly Pittsburgh team has conceded 3 goals in a match. If you look at some of their defeats earlier this year, this is the 4th time that they scored first and then failed to go on and win. And of their 10 defeats this year, you expand it to an additional 5 where they got shut out. And like, if you just take those games that they scored first and failed to go on and and ended up losing, they would be 3rd in the Eastern Conference right now had they just held on to those results. And this is just such an kind of Pittsburgh performance that it, like Kaylor had mentioned, it's probably going to cost them a home playoff game, as they currently sit. To their credit, just 2 points and a victory out of being in 4th. And we'll see if the Lads protocol Loudon has anything to say about it. But yeah, if you're looking at Pittsburgh right now, there's a different element to them playing at home, and it's something they've always kind of used to their benefit.
I'm just going to open up a wider dialogue on Pittsburgh. And John, you mentioned the killer instinct. It's a feature, not a bug, right? When they won the Players' Shield, what was that, 2-3 years ago now? They had Albert Dikwa, who was doing his best mellow, I score, no assist, right? They did it a few years prior when they had Nico Brett, where they were running scores up on teams, maybe not 4 or 5 nils, but they were winning convincing 2-3 nils, and they were just doing that regularly. We talked about this before the season. I think Nicholas Murray even wrote an article about how Augie Williams was the best and biggest signing in club history, a bona fide goal scorer going to Pittsburgh. And I'm not going to say it hasn't worked because Augie's been really good, but it hasn't quite clicked like a Albert Dikwa or a Nico Brett or a Russell Cicerone or someone of the sort. And I just don't really understand why. Because when you look at player profile, he profiles very similar to someone like a Dikwa, even not as much a Nico Brett, but maybe even a Russell Cicerone, but more or less a Dikwa. But it just hasn't quite clicked like those players did. Is there just something I'm missing here?
I think when push comes to shove, you look at Augie and he's got the frame and he's got the size, but he's a little bit less of a bulldozer than someone like Dikwa. And given how Pittsburgh just needs a guy to really anchor himself down in the box, it is slightly less of a perfect fit for them. And I think when you are as offensively limited as Pittsburgh can be, the tiniest little differences can matter. Some of it is just down to bad luck for my taste. Like Augie Williams, I would comfortably say is the best finisher, just pound for pound, that Pittsburgh has ever had on the squad. If you replayed this season 20 more times, he would probably be at double-digit goals in 19 of them. That's just who Augie Williams is. Maybe he comes good at the end of the season, finishes hot, and it really solves a lot of their problems. But you're right to point out that he hasn't been that talismanic number 9 that I think people expected.
And as it stands, if they do not finish this season with a positive goal differential, it would be the first time since 2017 that the Riverhounds had a negative goal differential at the end of the year.
Well, as we are kind of rounding this up a little bit, in the match that absolutely everybody is looking forward to to end the season, Birmingham, Miami. Aren't you excited?
October 19th.
That's a game.
Ryan, it's already been up there. If you want to do the quick math for us, you talked about the points that were lost by Pittsburgh. Legion, I'm just going to throw it out there because it was mentioned on the broadcast. It's been mentioned a lot of times. They have dropped 22 points after scoring first in a match. Where would that put us? Where would that put Birmingham if they just simply did not do that?
22 points.
22 points.
Third place, right?
Third, they'd be 6 points behind Charleston. So it would be similar to what Pittsburgh would have lost as well had they won the games that they lost after scoring first.
Soccer's cool. I love this sport. Very fun sport. Serious question about this matchup, though. Do we feel like this is a Miami team that we could see bring this into next year? Because they started off really hot, and then they were kind of who we thought they were.
I think they have some useful pieces. I don't know, man. Like, my answer is no. Like, they're gonna have to rehaul the roster again if we're being serious. They've maybe got 5 or 6 guys that are useful, but it's just not good enough. And I think Gaston Madoni has done a good job with a group that probably isn't there talent-wise. This was a learning experience for him, testing his very Argentine-focused pipeline, getting to know the league. I expect there to be a little bit more of a balanced recruitment strategy. But hey, it's a new era. It's new ownership. Homestead is happening eventually. If this is a stepping stone and they can keep Bonfiglio and Mercado and those sorts of guys, then it will be a season well spent for Miami. How about that?
Sure.
I do at least want to offer up a potential, I guess, historical test your knowledge question. Of these 3 teams that I'm about to list off, the longest unbeaten run these teams have been on this year is 4. Who does it belong to between Birmingham, Las Vegas, and Miami?
Longest unbeaten: Birmingham, Las Vegas, and Miami.
It's probably Las Vegas and they drew 4 straight games or something dumb.
No, it's Miami.
From
early in the year,
they were hot at the very beginning of the year, where they
won 3 out of 4 games, and that is where the streak is coming from. I will say, if Birmingham avoids defeat in this next one, they could be very well. I think, they would get to a 4th unbeaten game.
Let me find it, because I'm trying to. I don't remember the score line from Phoenix this last weekend. But Phoenix
lost
was
1-0.
They lost to New Mexico.
Okay,
it was 5
unbeaten.
unbeaten.
Gave up a penalty in like the 97th minute. Yeah. They had drawn 5 straight. They were 7 unbeaten, but they only won once in that stretch.
Yes, it was the 7 game saddest unbeaten streak ever. Like, they could have done updated the bio, but then put a frowny face after it, and it would have been funny. Like,
it's like the absolute worst vibes you've ever seen during a 7-game unbeaten stretch.
I mean, Toronto up in MLS is currently on an 8-match unbeaten stretch of 8 consecutive draws.
Oh, that hurts.
I love that.
Wasn't that the AFC Richmond start to their championship in season 2 that they began a year 8 consecutive draws?
Something
like I'm not sure why that came to mind there. But just unbeaten runs where you're just drawing all the games is just hilarious.
Go down. You were undefeated, though. That's fun.
People were making that jokes about Rangers in Scotland because they had started the year pretty poorly, but they were just drawing all the games.
Yeah. Well, I have CBA thoughts if you guys
go for it.
Okay. So I didn't get to talk about it last week, but I had the CBA download on my computer. The amount of times that I've had to reference the CBA throughout the years is kind of wild. And I don't have the exact lineup, but there was something that was being quoted at some point, not by you guys, but other just places, where it says in the CBA that players cannot strike or hold out or do a lockout. But the following stipulation is that it says that they can lock out during the life of the CBA. So pretty obvious, but that was they can't do a lockout because the CBA says they can't do it while the CBA is still going.
Yeah, it's expiring. That's the whole point. Yeah.
Yes. I am in the boat of there is no winner here. No matter how this goes, there are absolutely no winners, because I think the only way for the players to truly get what they want is by locking out. But this is not like the NFL or like the NBA or Major League Baseball, whatever, where if there's a lockout, okay, that's not great. The best talent is not there. This is a global sport. You can get players who are willing to be scabs because this is their final chance to be pro. Like there's players in Europe that this is their last chance before we move over. I'll be a scab. I don't care. Or this is a player just out of college who's just looking for a job, just wants to be a pro. You're being offered a contract. They'll do it. But I do think that you'll see a significant decrease in quality closer to where we were in USL Pro back in 2016. You'll see a solid setback on where we are currently. The owners lose there. The players lose there. The players lose their job. The owners lose the momentum talent-wise that they were building. On top of this, the players need to be careful because there's another active negotiation happening right now. The USL Super League CBA is not done. And if all kinds of, if the lockout happens and there is bad blood between the two, good luck getting the Super League CBA done. Which when we talked to Betsy Howe a few years ago, she mentioned that the USL Super League, then Division II, would use the Championship CBA because they wanted to be equal pay, equal everything between the men's and women's. Well, the Super League CBA is going to be your basis for the USL Division I CBA. If they can't come to terms on the Super League CBA, Division I CBA is not looking good either. This is, in general, just a bad look for the league. And some of the things that are being kind of loosely leaked through, I think that owners need to figure out that you're going to have to spend for this to happen. You're going to have to spend more money to go D1. You're going to have to spend more money on the roster because you only get one World Cup year, and you need to take it on this year. You need to have healthy players, or else you're just not going to have any players. It's just a bad look for the league. Nobody wins here. The fans surely don't win here, and it just makes me sad that we've gotten to this point.
Everything you said is well considered and correct, and I think it's good to have it out there. On the scab point, I do think it's interesting. Like, if you are the coaches and the technical directors who are tasked with recruiting those guys, what an awful position to be in. Like, you have 23 dudes that you had on the team last year that you have a relationship with. I think there's going to be a bias against anybody who's willing to scab, because coaches and technical directors are former players themselves for the most part. And if they're going to put themselves in the shoes and say, listen, if I was fighting for players' rights and somebody tried to scab, I would not be a fan of that guy. At every single level, this is just problematic for the league, the future of the league. And it is absolutely a noble cause. Like, these guys need to be able to earn an actual living and exist in the world from playing in the USL. That is something worth fighting for. That doesn't make it any easier.
Yeah, I like I've mentioned, I feel like I just end up reading the CBA so much. Like when we had the Loudon situation, technically Loudon didn't break any CBA rules, right? When we had the Enzo Martinez versus Charlotte Independence a few years ago of why is the CBA filing on Enzo's behalf on payments and stuff like that. Stuff like Enzo Martinez getting paid by Charlotte Independence after they did not pay him is why they have a CBA. They have lawyers, they have legal documents, they have legal backing to make sure that players get paid. It's the reason why you see the people in Northern Colorado get paid, right? You see these players who are getting paid and otherwise in a situation where they would not. That's why it's important, because this is just guaranteeing financial security. And when you're looking at 12-year or 12-month contracts, why wouldn't you want that? Why wouldn't you be wanting to be paid all 12 months of the year? And sure, they could do the teacher thing. I live it, right? Where it's a 9-month contract, but it's spaced over 12 months. Maybe they do something like that. Maybe that's the compromise along the way. But doesn't that stink? Doesn't that just suck for them, where like they're training all year long? It's not like they just stop training and lay around for 3 months. They don't do that. They are just constantly going. If you want better players, you want healthy players. Minor League Baseball has their own players association now because somewhere along the way, someone said, these players are going to be playing Major League Baseball. Don't you want them to be really good in minor league baseball so they are superstars when they get to you? What do you mean you have players who aren't getting proper nutrition? Isn't this where they are learning to become the best? That's the same thing that the USL needs to be telling themselves. We're not just wasting money on health insurance. We're getting healthier players so they can get back to us healthier and fitter and playing better and scoring more goals so we can sell them off for a bigger profit to some other league and raise our standard, and then cycle continues. It's not wasting money. It's an investment. Invest in these players.
And it's like, why is this the moment you're going to plant the flag in the ground and say, we're not going to give the players what they need? At the most pivotal year to 2 year stretch that the USL is ever going to have. The World Cup, Pro Rel, D1, all of that down the pipeline. You want to be able to leverage all of the momentum, recruit high profile players, grow the league, grow the sponsorship. If you are getting a strike, getting the season delayed, adapted, what have you, it is such a drag on all of that momentum. It seems so short-sighted for what is ultimately not a ton of money for owners in the USL. And I understand, I say it all the time, these aren't the billionaires that own teams in the NFL or what have you. At the end of the day, healthcare, a couple more months of salaries don't feel like they're backbreaking when all these guys are losing money already. And I don't know, I'm not seeing in the checkbooks. I don't know the financials in every single club. It just feels like we're missing something here.
Yeah. Anyway, I listened to you guys talk about it last week, and you guys did an amazing job. And I just wanted to throw it out there for on my side too, because but you guys absolutely nailed it last week. So that's why I wanted to wait till the end of the eps, because people have already heard this conversation happen. So
it's an important conversation. So I'm happy to hear the thoughts.
Any final USL thoughts from you guys?
Oakland's gonna sounds like they'll get their approval to be in the Coliseum again for 26, which will be pretty neat.
That means we get another year that I could maybe go back out to Oakland. That'd be cool. I should just go out to the Coliseum. Cool. John, you had something?
Yes, Vegas forfeit. LOL.
The fact that we've had this happen twice this year is awesome. And we almost had a third, Birmingham side, where the Turnbull was supposed to start, but Tregarthen was accidentally put into the lineup. And then Briggs just had to go up to Turnbull and be like, hey, that whole starting thing, no. And then Tregarthen gets like a goal and an assist, and Turnbull never starts again.
That's so funny, man.
So I don't know, just wild. How does that keep happening?
The same way that we keep having NFL running backs dropping the ball before the end zone.
Yeah.
Just stop. I don't know. I feel like getting the lineup correct is the one thing you have to do as a coach. I feel like that's just the one thing.
I mean, I feel like you've got an assistant on that. Coach is saying the lineup, and then you've got a guy who's the lineup card guy.
Can I go undercover as the lineup card guy for the USL Championship final? Just kind of back there, just doing the content, just being
with the fake mustache and glasses on, disguising yourself. Yeah,
it's like Rob Gronkowski just playing basketball. Did y'all see that? Yeah. Incredible. Yeah, I just don't know why it keeps happening. I'm glad that this sounds so mean to Las Vegas, but thank goodness on their part that they already lost.
Yeah. Well, that was the Westchester Spokane thing, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's not the primary tiebreaker. I think it's the secondary one because it's points, total wins, and then you do goal difference. But that actually 3-0 did improve Rhode Island's goal differential in that one. So if it comes down to it as that being a potential tiebreaker for the final playoff spot in the East, that's just an interesting wrinkle.
Imagine.
I will be so mad.
It's not out of the question. There are 3 games left, and everyone's
It's
nearby.
like likely. I know.
Indy's out because of a forfeit.
Just self-immolate.
Yeah.
It cost the Hammerheads a playoff spot when they were in the league. They had played an ineligible player, and due to forfeiting those points, they missed the playoffs by, I think, a point.
All right,
I wanna say that was
whichever team in the
2013.
USL needs a lineup card guy, get me on that.
When can you just be Brooklyn's? Like you're just the
Yep,
Brooklyn
Brooklyn,
SC?
Westchester, right here.
Final thoughts for the night. Whoever wants to go, Ryan.
Sure, I'll start. I had mentioned in my article last week, but take care of your knees and legs. I had gone a year without buying new running shoes, and I had put like 500 miles on the old pair, and certainly needed an upgrade. And it just was like an immediate difference when I did. I gained I improved my mile pace by like 40 seconds. So, yeah, it's your only pair of legs and feet, so take care of them.
Great point. Which reminds me, I definitely need to buy new shoes. Yeah.
Go do that. Treat yourself.
Yeah. John?
I got a new phone today for the first time in a while. Like, I still had a home button on my iPhone for context.
I noticed that in Portland.
Yeah. I posted the picture of my screen protector, which was like a spider's web of cracks. And I kind of don't know how I was living with a tiny old phone that was just entirely cracked, but here we are. Life has never been better. So I guess continuing the theme of like, if you're using something old and run down, replace it.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah. So what's it like to actually be able to see your screen?
It's so nice. And what they don't tell you is that the phones are bigger these days and the screens are bigger. Turns out that's really nice.
I remember my grandfather, when the phones were getting bigger and the tablets were getting smaller, he was getting on like old man rants of like, one of these days they're going to try to sell me a phone that's bigger than my tablet. And I'm like, oh, I don't think they're going to do that, man.
That's awesome.
I really don't have any. Oh, in like 2 weeks, I'm finally going on a real deal actual vacation.
All right.
Yeah, I say that. It's like for a weekend, but I haven't taken a vacation in so long. And so going away to the mountains and just enjoying being away for everything for like 2 days. And I am so excited. So
that
pumped.
Rocks. That's so good.
Yeah. So that's really all I got. Let's see, for kids season, I think just did their season finale. So, catch up on the full catalog because they did a lot of kits this year. They did every single professional kit that got released home and away, and they got through a big chunk of the W League 2. So check that out. That's a full big catalog from season 4 kit season. We have a whole lot more that we are working on here, and we will be back next week. And so for the first and final time tonight, here's Alan's voice.
Thank you for watching another episode of the USL Show.
The USL Show is now proudly part of the Protagonist podcast family. Please go to protagonistsoccer.com to check out more work. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see everyone again next time.